From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Millicent Walker.
Tonight, Industrial Court in Abuja orders resident doctors back to work. NARD leadership remains adamant, insists no court has mandated it to suspend action as they have not been served any court order. President of the Senate decries more borrowings for Nigeria, urges improved strategy on revenue collection, also denies bribery to pass the PIB. Clergyman Pastor Tunde Bakare speaks on his relationship with President Muhammadu Buhari, also hints that he may run for presidency in 2023. And the Taliban warns United States and other foreign forces to leave Afghanistan before August the 31st extension deadline. Plus, business sports from Abuja, news from Abuja, and later international news from our studio in London.
On business news tonight, federal government to launch its 5-year medium-term national development plan in October.
On sports news tonight, the 2020 Paralympics flame arrives in Tokyo as the stage is set for the opening ceremony on Tuesday.
And from Abuja, trouble in Zamfara as bandits abduct 50 persons, kill 5.
And there's been a new development in the face-off between the resident doctors and the federal government. Earlier today, the National Industrial Court sitting in Abuja ordered the immediate suspension of the ongoing strike by the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors. According to the Federal Ministry of Labour and Employment, the sitting judge issued the order while ruling on an ex parte application by the federal government. The government had asked the court for an order of interlocutory injunction, restraining the doctors from continuing with the industrial action. There's been several meetings between the federal government and the resident doctors to resolve pending issues on allowances, welfare and other matters to members of NARD, but an agreement is yet to be reached. In the meantime, the National Association of Resident Doctors are not backing down as they reject claims that there's been a court order mandating them to resume work immediately. Reacting to the statement, Dr. Julian Ojobo explains that neither the association nor its council has been served any court order mandating them to resume.
There is no such thing that the National Industrial Court has ordered us. What we have seen is a release by the Director of Media from the Ministry of Labour saying that the court has ordered us to suspend our strike action. This goes to reiterate government's insincerity as we've always posited. Over time we've always made Nigerians understand that the government does not want to do what it's supposed to do. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has given a directive that all the technicalities should be solved, and at that instance, the Nigerian Medical Association decided to interface with the Ministry of Labour. Now, just barely 48 hours after a memorandum was signed with the Nigerian Medical Association, and the Ministry of Labour is saying that that there is an order that tells all resident doctors to resume to work. And we do not have a judgment. When we have a judgment, we'll present it to the National Officers Committee, and the Extended National Officers Committee in council with our legal representative, and we'll discuss these issues.
Into politics, where a River State High Court has granted an interim order restraining Prince Uche Secondus from parading himself or acting as the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. The order has also stopped Mr. Secondus from performing the functions of the chairman of the party or calling, attending or presiding over any meeting of the PDP or its committee at ward, local government or state level. Mr. Secondus has been in the eye of the storm, with some members of his party calling for his resignation as the national chairman. However, at the last National Working Committee meeting, the Board of Trustees of the party mandated him to organize a national convention for the party in October, although there are reports that the agreement has since broken down. Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party National Chairman, Prince Uche Secondus, has been reacting to the court order emanating from the Rivers High Court, stopping him from acting as the party's national chairman. In a statement made available to Channels Television through his media aide, Ike Abonyi, Prince Secondus says, quote, "PDP and Secondus are not afraid of court. This party is a child of history, owned by Nigerians, bigger than any individual or group, including desperados." The PDP leader says if Secondus and the party is taken to court, they will defend themselves. Mr. Secondus, in the statement, however, claims that the story originated allegedly through a special assistant on media to the River State governor. Meanwhile, the Pentecostal pastor and presiding overseer of the Citadel Global Church, Pastor Tunde Bakare, has been speaking about his relationship with President Muhammadu Buhari. The pastor, who has in the past sermons talked about the president whom he was his running mate in 2011, his disappointments about the state of the nation and the running of the affairs of the state, has now spoken up about his trust for the president to deliver. Pastor Bakare also answered the question on whether he will be running for the office of the president come 2023.
It does look like you and some of your friends helped the APC in whatever manner in which you did. And you had the trust in the person of President Buhari, for example. Is that trust still there as we speak?
Well, the Bible says we should not trust the arms of flesh or put our trust in princes. The only person you can trust absolutely is God Almighty, because the arms of flesh will fail. The best of men are still men at the very best. From his own utterance, especially when he granted the last interview, the few occasions he had spoken to this nation, he himself was overwhelmed by the things happening. And so a tree does not make a forest, and if I were in his shoes, and I'm not the president, and I'm not suggesting anything or trying to, flight a kite there, I would try other things. If what I've been doing does not work, maybe it's another time to look for those who can really deliver instead of this doldrum. We have been going around about this mountain for 8 years. Something needs to be done if he's mindful of his legacy, and that's been my cry, that's all. If there's going to be an outstanding, enduring legacy that cannot easily be erased or rubbished, some things need to be done very, very soon. So whatever it is, they must sit down and put on their thinking cap and say, look, we cannot let it continue this way. A mighty army is about to rise from the valley of dry bones. If you have ever read Ezekiel 37, the hopeless are going to get up and they're going to rise and demand for what is right. And God is going to look for the best of the north and the best of the south, according to Ezekiel 37, to come and steer the affairs of this nation. This boat must not sink.
Would you be running for president?
I'm a free citizen. I can run for anything. When that time comes, the whole world will know. I'm a free citizen. Nothing stops me, nothing debars me. There's nothing that can say, oh, you can't run for this, you can't run for that. And I respect other people's right also to rise and run. Right now, that's not my immediate focus. My immediate focus is if there's no nation to preside over, so what are you running except you want to run out of the country?
The preparedness of mind is what I'm asking here. Whether or not Pastor Tunde Bakare might throw his hat in the ring in 2023. Is there a possibility of that?
You can see my head that there's no heart there today. to throw into any ring. I'm wearing my head straight and I'm focused on what I'm doing. But guess what? Whether as Pastor Tunde Bakare or as President Tunde Bakare, the initials will still remain PTB.
Well, you can catch the full interview with Pastor Tunde Bakare tomorrow, Tuesday, August 24th at 9 a.m. and 11 p.m. only on Channels Television. And to other stories, the President of Senate, Ahmed Lawan, has strongly debunked allegations that the Senate accepted $10 million to pass the 3% compensation to host communities before the petroleum industry bill was passed into law. He was speaking after a closed-door meeting with the President at the presidential villa today. Mr. Lawan also commented on the revenue drop by some ministries, departments and agencies, urging them to scale up their remittances to prevent more borrowings by Nigeria. Our correspondent Gloria Muzuke reports.
Less than a week after President Muhammadu Buhari approved a steering committee to implement the Petroleum Industry Act, the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, returned to the State House for a meeting with the President. Clearly, salient issues bordering on the party, economy, security and the Petroleum Industry Act was central during discussions. The President of the Senate debunks reports that the National Assembly was financially induced to pass the 3% compensation to host communities.
Recently, somebody said $10 million was given to the Speaker and the Senate President to give to members of the National Assembly to pass 3%. What do you call it? 3% house development fund. That is funny, but also very serious. I really want to take this opportunity to take exceptions to those kind of unwarranted, unprovable, false and fake information being fed to the Nigerian public.
The point that Nigeria's huge leanings on borrowings is as a result of poor remittances by government agencies is also highlighted as talks begin on the 2022 budget.
There are so many agencies of government that are not remitting their revenues, the internally generated revenues, and this is something that we have to address and address as stiffly as possible and as quickly as possible, because we need to find a way of reducing the borrowing that we do.
He's also deeply concerned about a strategy and humanitarian resources to deal with repentant Boko Haram members.
But we should accept people when they come and take the appropriate measures, get the right strategies on how to deal with the reintegration of such people into the community. Don't throw them just into the community like that.
The President of the Senate targets registration of up to 100 million Nigerians, that is half of the country, as he believes that the President will crystallize his promise to deplete many of Nigeria's challenges, including insecurity, by 2023.
The President of the Senate believes the All Progressives Congress can register 100 million Nigerians, that is about half of the nation's estimated population, insisting that the President will crystallize his promise to deplete many of Nigeria's challenges, including insecurity, by 2023. Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Staying with the National Assembly, the House of Representatives Committee on Finance is asking the Controller General of Nigeria Customs Service, retired Colonel Ahmed Ali, to ensure effective implementation of the 2021 Finance Act as a means of increasing its revenue target from its operations in 2022. The committee made this request at the ongoing interactive session with heads of key revenue-generating agencies on the 2022-2024 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and TEF and Fiscal Strategy Paper FSP. Our correspondent Linda Kube reports.
Increasing the country's revenue to reduce borrowings continue to be the dominant focus at the continuation of meetings between the House of Representatives Committee on Finance and heads of government agencies. One of the nation's key revenue-generating agencies, the Nigeria Customs Service, is before the committee to present its expenditure profile as well as its projected revenue targets for the next 3 years. According to the Controller General of Customs, the agency generated 1.2 trillion naira revenue as at July 2021 and has a proposed revenue target of 1.38 trillion naira for 2022. The committee is, however, not satisfied with this target.
We are saying no, that your gross revenue is low in view of all the available opportunities that you have.
Yes, one good thing about it is that every kobo we collect in customs goes straight into the...
Yes, I agree with you, but the point is that...
So we have no way of shortchanging government.
No, CG, yes. The issue is this.
Yes.
For us, as a Committee of Finance, we will not accept the 1.3. I'm sure by the time our report comes out, you'll be pleasantly happy.
The customs boss also discloses his unease over the failure of a major beverage producer to pay tax.
And I have sung this song for many years now, that Coca-Cola is producing in this country and is not being taxed. There's nowhere in the world that you go and Coca-Cola don't pay tax to its host country.
The Department of Petroleum Resources is also before the committee, and members take the agency up on the recommendations by the Comptroller General of Customs for the setting up of fuel stations in neighboring countries to address smuggling.
Yeah, Honorable Chairman, we enable business, but we are not businessmen. I think that is more of NNPC's track, not us, and also our neighboring countries' laws.
More heads of government agencies are expected to open their books to the House of Reps Finance Committee to scrutinize their income and expenditure profiles, as well as capital votes for 2018 to 2021. Linda Akibi, Channels Television News.
In part 2 after the break, more troubles in Zamfara State as bandits kill 5, abduct 50 others in one operation. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you should join us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Industrial Court in Abuja orders resident doctors back to work. NARD leadership remains adamant, insists no court has mandated it to suspend action as they have not been served any court order. President of the Senate decries more borrowings for Nigeria, urges improved strategy on revenue collection, also denies bribery to pass the PIB. Clergyman Pastor Tunde Bakare speaks on his relationship with President Muhammadu Buhari, also hints that he may run for presidency in 2023. And the Taliban warns United States and other foreign forces to leave Afghanistan before August the 31st deadline extension. The Lagos State government has raised concerns over the increasing number of COVID-19 cases in the state. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu says the test positivity rate of the state currently stands at 12.1% compared to 1.1% at the end of June 2021 and 7% at the end of July this year. He says the high infection rate of the third wave has been attributed to non-compliance to safety protocols. According to Governor Sanwo-Olu, over the course of managing the COVID-19 pandemic, over 5,000 patients have been admitted into various COVID-19 care centers in the state.
For every 100 tests that we do, we get about 12 people that are infected, and we continue to do the testing in large numbers. We have identified that the third wave emerged on account of non-adherence to the laid-down health protocols that was designed to mitigate the flow of the pandemic. So we're exploring several ways of increasing our oxygen capacity, which includes partnering with some of the private sector providers. I'm sure you know that we currently have 2 oxygen plants right now, and we're expecting to complete another one at LASUT, which is the Lagos University Teaching Hospital in Ikeja. We received a total of about 299,992 doses of the Moderna on the 18th of August. They announced that they were going to give us 601,000, but they've not given us the entire 601,000, based on their own logistics, at the federal level. But we've received just a little over 300,000 right now. And I'm happy to announce that from Wednesday, on the 25th, we'll commence the vaccination at over 150 centers across the state. We'll start the vaccination there. Let me also further re-emphasize that vaccination is free, in all of our locations. If you have gotten your appointment and you come around, they are meant to be given to you free of charge. But it's important for me to reiterate that the Moderna vaccination is also a double dose vaccination, like the first one, which was the AstraZeneca. And what it means is that when you receive your first dose of the Moderna, you'll be given a date when you need to return for the second and the final dose.
Away from the pandemic, but still on health, in Taraba State, no fewer than 7 persons have been confirmed dead following the outbreak of suspected cholera in Tella community of Gasol local government area of the state. Confirming the incident to Channels Television, the State's Commissioner for Health, Dr. Innocent Vakai, reveals that several others have been hospitalized at health centers within the area. According to him, a team of medical experts from the State's Ministry of Health have been drafted to the community to investigate the reported cases. The chairman of Gasol local government area, Musa Cho, also confirmed the outbreak. He says that 25 persons have been admitted at the Tella maternity clinic as a result of symptoms perceived to be that of cholera. And to other stories, the number of Nigerians registered since the launch of the INEC online registration portal has now exceeded 2 million in 8 weeks. In a communication from the National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, he also revealed that 4 weeks ago, the Commission commenced the in-person or physical registration, as well as the completion of online pre-registration in state and local government area offices nationwide. He said with the number of completed registration now standing in excess of 400,000. The Commission also appeals to eligible citizens who have not registered to avail themselves of the opportunity to do so. But those who have already registered as voters do not need to register again. Swift reaction. The River State chairman of the 23 local government areas are threatening to disrupt the continuous voters registration exercise in the state if INEC fails to make the process seamless within 1 week. They accuse INEC of deploying insufficient and non-functional devices, among others, to council headquarters for the registration, which they claim is a ploy to disenfranchise eligible voters in River State.
We have observed that there's a deliberate attempt by the Commission to disenfranchise and depopulate the eligible voters in River State. We noticed that the machine deployed to the 23 local governments are not sufficient, and not just not being sufficient, that the machines are not functioning well. Each time we are told that there's a server problem which will be fixed and has never been fixed. We try to mobilize and sensitize our people to go to the various centers of INEC to do their registration. And each time they go there, they spend the whole day, only to be asked to return the next day. And even when they go back the next day, they're asked to come back again. And people are tired of moving from one place to the other just to get registered.
They're a bit agitated. I can understand for politicians that they are a bit agitated, but the truth is this registration is going to run for at least a year, so there's enough time for us to for everyone who needs to register. My only concern is that what we are seeing is that there are lots of people who are not supposed to register, who are coming to register again, and when you probe further and further, they admit that they've actually registered before and they lost their cards, or they registered in some other location, and we tell them you don't need to register afresh. All you need to do is to do a transfer or request a new card to be produced for you.
And to other stories now. The Office of the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, says he has not declared any interest whatsoever in the 2023 election. The VP's office, in a statement, says Professor Osinbajo is rather focused on working in his capacity as Vice President in the current administration to address all the compelling issues in the country. The statement reads in part, the Office of the Vice President is not in any way connected with the distribution and deployment of any 2023 political posters, whether on the streets or online videos, banners and the like on social media. All these are simply needless distractions from the urgent task of governance needed in our country at this time. And the Secretary of State Governor Gov Tambawal has told President Muhammadu Buhari to revive grazing reserves only where people are interested. Governor Tambawal was speaking in Lagos during the 63rd birthday lecture of Mr. Richard Akinola, days after President Buhari approved the review of 368 grazing sites in 25 states, insisting that open pastoralism is not in the interest of even the Fulani herdsmen, and avert that Nigeria should rethink open grazing. The Secretary Governor enjoined Nigerians to vote for a candidate with a broad worldview come 2023 who would promote unity and a sense of belonging among the country's diverse groups. The African Development Bank plans to establish 8 special agro-industrial processing zones in the country. The project, according to the bank, is expected to address issues of poor infrastructure, technical innovation and mechanization. To address the issues bedeviling the agricultural sector, the senior special advisor to the AFDB president on industrialization, who was speaking at a food summit in Abuja, calls for more private sector intervention to boost food production.
How to make the nation's agriculture sector contribute significantly to the nation's socio-economic development is the reason for this meeting, which had experts and development partners in attendance. Reports by the International Fund for Agricultural Development reveal that Nigeria is endowed with 34 million hectares of arable land and abundant water resources in excess of 200 billion cubic meters. While there's been an increase in per capita production of root tubers and other crops, its ability to support the nation's exponential growth, which is estimated at 360 million by 2050, remains worrisome.
If you want to industrialize meaningfully and establish a relationship between agriculture and the industry, you have to mechanize. The usual way of taking your hoe and the arrow to go to the farm and the cutlass has to give way to modern way of farming.
The African Development Bank also shares a similar sentiment and plans to intervene.
We are going to the board on October 8 with the first set of 8 locations in Nigeria. There are 8 locations in Nigeria, which the Ministry of Agriculture is actually the executing agency. 1 in Kano, another in Kaduna, 1 in FCTA, 1 in Kwara, 1 in Ogun, 1 in Oyo, and 1 in Imo and across River State. And we are going to be working together to ensure that we start this year.
The United Kingdom is also willing to support the sector to boost food security.
We all know that a sustainable and efficient farming sector is a fundamental part of the security of Nigeria's economy and its people. Governments continue to have a key role in regulating and enabling the sector. But let's give the private sector the support it needs to create jobs and bring its expertise to bear. I'll give you 3 examples. Encourage the free flow of goods within and beyond Nigeria.
Insecurity, climate change, poor infrastructure, and lack of mechanization has been the bane of agriculture and food production in the country, which has led to an unprecedented rise in food prices.
Well, the news at 10 returns. A launch by the federal government on a 5-year medium-term national development plan. That's in business news. To join us again. our Abuja studios where Linda Kigwe has some more stories. Hello, Linda.
Hello, Millicent. Armed bandits in their large numbers have invaded Gora Namaye town in Maradun local government area of Zamfara state early hours of Monday. It was gathered that the gunmen attacked the community around 1:30 a.m. and started shooting sporadically, killing 8 persons in the process and later abducted 50 persons. The police command in the state confirmed the incident and has deployed tactical operatives to the affected area to restore normalcy and rescue the abducted victims. Meanwhile, troops of Operation Safe Haven have rescued 15 travelers at Jagindi town in Jema local government area of Kaduna State. The victims were traveling in 2 separate vehicles when they were intercepted by the bandits who laid ambush along the road. According to the Kaduna State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arwan, the 15 persons had been kidnapped from 2 vehicles in the area while in transit. The troops, however, responded to a distress call and mobilized swiftly to the location and repelled the bandits, which enabled the rescue of the abducted persons. He, however, says that the troops are sustaining search and rescue operations in the area with the aim of ensuring general safety of travelers and residents of the community. The Oni of Ife, Obadeyeye Ogunwusi, has called on political office leaders to uphold the national heritage at all times as they govern the affairs of a nation. Oba Ogunwusi said this during a courtesy visit to Edo State Governor Mr. Godwin Obaseki at the government house. He asked that the traditional institutions in the country would be willing to lend a helping hand to government when called upon. Mr. Obaseki underlines the importance of traditional institutions, noting that the challenges of insecurity in the country can be tackled effectively if government carries along traditional leaders in their programs.
We traditional rulers, we as a co-chairman of National Council of Traditional Rulers, we will continue to work with constituted authorities. You are one of them. And I can assure you that I'm speaking on behalf of all our traditional members. We are not fighting with any constituted authority. We're not fighting. And we will continue to work with you to make sure that things are right. What is just key for us is for you that are our political leaders is to uphold our heritage. And I believe strongly that you stand for that too. That you will continue to uphold our heritage because you believe in the traditional institution of this country.
As a politician, sad, unfortunate, if you don't appreciate and understand the stabilizing factor that traditional institutions are to us in this country, and use them in terms of helping with our developmental programs. One of the biggest challenges we have today is security. And these challenges occur in specific domains. As I say, these bandits, these criminals, they are not spirits.
That's all from Abuja. Now to Teniola for business news.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Linda. Welcome to Business News. The federal government says it will launch the 2021 to 2025 medium-term National Development Plan by October this year. Briefing participants today at an event in Abuja, the Minister of State for Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mr. Clem Agba, says the 5-year plan, which is aimed at lifting millions of Nigerians out of poverty and ensuring economic stability, is currently being reviewed by several stakeholders before getting to the National and Federal Executive Council for approval. He explained that the medium-term development agenda plan would involve the organized private sector, civil society organizations, women and youth, as well as people with special needs, and also put in place strategies to tackle the country's growing population. Nestle Nigeria PLC has launched a project to empower rural women in Nigeria. According to officials of the General Household Consumer Company, the project aims to enable women scale up their retail businesses through training, mentorship and grants in the form of Nestle products. Speaking at the launch of the project in Abuja, Nestle Nigeria's commercial manager, Mr. Khalid Ramadan, explains that the project will make significant contributions to the well-being of 50 retailers in the first phase.
It is all songs of joy for these women retailers who are in the dealership of Nestle products in the Federal Capital Territory, as Nestle Nigeria PLC, makers of household consumables, continue to broaden the horizon of their agents.
Now, what you buy for market?
First, the women are trained on how to succeed in their business.
What this one means, say, you see some market, you go make better profits.
In the first phase of the project, titled Nestle Empowering Rural Women in Nigeria, the company will provide 3 times the monthly turnover of each of the 50 female retailers in the form of Nestle products.
The vision behind this is to empower women that they are driving a business in their local communities, mainly targeting the rural areas. We're looking behind this to drive an opportunity for the women to further scale up their business by providing them an average of 300% of product comparing to their monthly average of sales, where they can use the return of this to invest it in growing their businesses and then support their families.
Our intention is to help to improve the livelihoods of these women through training and through grants in form of Nestle products, which is over 3 times the value that they actually buy from us every month.
The Nestle Empowering Rural Women in Nigeria is designed to help the selected retailers to scale up 3 times more than the size of their existing businesses.
They promised to give us some goods that will sell and we'll pay them 20% back, which will help us in our business. It will help a lot to grow our business, so I'm so happy for that.
It's a surprise to me. It's what I did not expect from them. But I'm grateful. I believe I'll use it well, and I'm going to refund what they're asking me to refund to them.
There are also plans for other women across the country.
We're looking to reach another number of mainly 300 plus of retailers, not only in Abuja, across the country, and this is something we are today discussing with our stakeholders around.
In addition, the retailers will be linked to one-on-one mentors for additional guidance and consistent support to ensure their success.
Well, it appears the Bears taken control at the local equities market today. Alayo Adegoke has the details.
Thank you for joining us for the Stock Markets Report. It's the first trading day of the week, and it's a slow start for the equities as the bear continues to tighten its grip on the market. The all-share index dipped by 0.12% as the value of listed equities lost about 25 billion naira. The activity levels were also weak compared to last week's trading session. Volumes of shares transacted stood at 211.32 million units, valued at 2.02 billion naira in 3,939 deals. Sectoral performance was broadly negative as most key sectors were down, leaving the insurance index as the sole gainer. Let's take a look at top trades. Stocks of Chams, GT, Coal and Honey Flour were the most traded by volume. Over to the gainers counter. Interestingly, FTN Cocoa Processors reverses their status, topping the gainers counters to close at 44 kobo. Meanwhile, bellwether stock Lafarge was one of the big losers for the day, down by 5.29%, followed by PZ and Union Bank. However, it's a positive market breadth with 19 gainers to 10 losers. Last week was quite a tussle between the bear and the bull. Let's see what happens this week. And that's the stock market report. I'm Layo Adegoke. It's back to you.
Well, let's take a look at the closing numbers for global markets now. And that's business news tonight. It's back to Millicent for the rest of the news at 10.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Teniola. Still ahead on the news at 10, the Taliban warns United States and other foreign forces to leave Afghanistan before August 31. There's more international news from around the world in 5. Please stay with us. Let's now go over to London, where Simon Pusey has more on international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The Taliban will not extend the 31st of August deadline for the current evacuation mission. That's according to a spokesman.
This is something you can say it's a red line.
It's after rumours that several countries, including the UK, were expected to urge President Biden to delay the withdrawal of US forces beyond that date at Tuesday's G7 talks. An Afghan security guard and 3 more people were injured in a gun battle that also involved German and United States forces. US soldiers have set up over 70 military tents at Germany's Ramstein air base as they prepare to shelter up to 10,000 evacuees from Afghanistan. Meanwhile, Turkish forces have begun enforcing security measures along its border with Iran to prevent an influx of Afghan immigrants. At least 22 people have been killed as rescue crews are searching shattered homes and tangled debris for dozens of people still missing after heavy flooding hit parts of Tennessee. The flooding uprooted massive trees, tore through homes and tossed cars and pickup trucks into ditches and atop sheds. Many of the missing live in neighbourhoods where the water rose fastest, as up to 17 inches of rain fell in less than 24 hours. Meanwhile, hundreds of far-left and far-right demonstrators have clashed in Portland, firing paintballs, spraying chemicals and destroying property. Police haven't reported any deaths or injuries, but footage from the 2 areas where the demonstrations have occurred showed gunshots being fired. And protesters breaking windows of parked vehicles and flipping over an ambulance. The clashes came on the anniversary of similar competing protests a year ago after the murder of George Floyd. Vietnam has deployed soldiers to the streets of Ho Chi Minh City to help enforce a strict lockdown in the country's biggest urban area. The city is currently the epicenter of Vietnam's worst coronavirus outbreak to date. The country implemented movement restrictions in Ho Chi Minh City in early July, but announced its harshest curbs yet last week, as infections have continued to surge. The government is now prohibiting people from leaving their homes, even for food, and said the military would step in to help. Jailed former Bolivian president is in a stable condition after she tried to take her own life in prison. Giannine Anez tried to harm herself after prosecutors charged her with genocide over the deaths of protesters in 2019. Anez's daughter said her mother made an attempt on her own life due to severe depression because of her prolonged imprisonment. The former president was detained earlier this year over accusations that she participated in a coup to depose longtime former President Evo Morales in 2019. The International Army Games 2021 have begun in northwest China, where 42 countries will be competing in 12 hosting nations, including China, Russia and Iran. This year's Games will see a total of 34 events, including 3 contests involving infantry fighting vehicles, man-portable anti-aircraft missiles, and nuclear, biological and chemical reconnaissance. The Army Games are also known for a unique race called Tank Biathlon, where crews are judged on speed and shooting accuracy. A joint force of Mozambican and Rwandan troops have rescued more than 100 people who had been taken hostage by militants in northern Mozambique. The hostages had been held by Islamic State-linked militants. The state broadcaster said that those rescued were mostly children, women and the elderly. The operation was in the dense forest of the administrative post of Mbao, which sheltered one of the key bases of the jihadists. And finally, a World War II bunker in northern France has been given an unlikely new lease of life as a bed and breakfast, welcoming visitors after remaining buried for years. A bunker enthusiast bought up a plot of land in the area and spent 18 months digging out and renovating the 400 square metre bunker, turning it into a fully functional rental, complete with a bar area and cosy living room. The site, now in a residential area and surrounded by houses and gardens close to the coast, was once operated by 30 men in the German Air Force or Luftwaffe. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Time now for the sports news. The Tokyo 2020 Paralympics flame have arrived in the Japanese capital in less than 24 hours to the start of the Games opening ceremony. Torchbearers gathered for the special ceremony, which replaced the original relay route, with the Games set to open at 11 a.m. on Tuesday. Nice and Olympique de Marseille have been summoned to a disciplinary hearing on Wednesday after their Ligue 1 match on Sunday, which had to be abandoned due to crowd trouble. The match at Nice's Allianz Riviera was abandoned in the 75th minute on Sunday after Marseille players clashed with home fans who pelted them with missiles and stormed onto the pitch. And that's sports news.
And the main news again. Industrial Court in Abuja issued back-to-work order to striking resident doctors, but the NAR leadership insisted no court has mandated it to suspend the action. Also today, bottling giant Coca-Cola is accused by the Controller General of the Nigerian Customs of tax evasion. That's News at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Minister Morgan. Stay safe.